And we're now live, Warden Danielson.
Good morning, everyone. If I could have a roll call, please.
Warden Danielson.
I'm here.
Councillor Moffat.
Present.
Councillor Roberts.
Present.
Councillor McKechnie.
Present.
Councillor Burton.
Present.
Councillor Ryle.
Present.
Councillor DeVolen.
Here.
And Councillor Shell.
Present.
And could I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda for today? Councillors DeVolen and Roberts, thank you.
Moved by Councillor DeVolen, seconded by Councillor Roberts. Be it resolved that the August 11th, 2021 Haliburton County Committee of the Whole agenda be approved.
All in favor? That's carried. Is there any notice of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof today? Hearing none, we'll move on. No delegations for today. Could I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting of June the 9th, sorry. Mover and a seconder, Councillors Burton and McKechnie.
Moved by Councillor Burton, seconded by Councillor McKechnie. Be it resolved that the minutes from the June 9th, 2021 meeting of Haliburton County Council Committee of the Whole be adopted as circulated.
All in favor? That's carried. No correspondence, so we will move into roads. Bring in our Director of Public Works. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning. How's everyone?
So far, so good.
Okay, good. Let's see, for the first report, we have our status report. Not too much has changed since 2 weeks ago at council. We are anxiously awaiting the start of the surface treatment with all the rain we've been having. They've been delayed a bit. So once they do get in and started, it'll go rather quickly. That's an update on our capital projects, on our maintenance. Things are going well. A lot of patching going on, again, with the rain. Further to the report, we also completed County Road 8, and we're just starting on County Road 19. Some good news, we actually are getting in our backhoe today. It's coming early, so I think SIL and maintenance people are happy about that. I think that's about it for our status report for this month. Or if there's any questions, please feel free to ask.
Any questions on the status report? Could I have a mover and a seconder to receive the report, please? Councillor Shell and Councillor Moffat.
Moved by Councillor Shell, seconded by Councillor Moffat. Be it resolved that the August 2021 status reports on capital projects, operations, and road maintenance be received for information by the Haliburton County Committee of the Whole.
All in favor? That's carried. Next is a report on resurfacing of the rail trail.
Yes, this is our first contract to award regarding the ICIP funding from the federal and provincial government. We had to pause the tender earlier in the year to get some budget items straightened around and some unit items. So we're here recommending this first report to be awarded to the contractor for about $168,000. And we have plans in place that we'll be reporting to council on how we expect to deliver the remaining components over the next few months. And if we have to go into next year, we're looking at asking the government on our transfer payment agreement on if we can go into next year, depending on unit prices and COVID. There's been a lot of things that have been going on that have affected this. If council will recall, the application for this project occurred in November of 2019, pre-COVID. So there has been a number of changes over the last couple of years.
Are there any questions on this report? Councillor Moffat and then Councillor Roberts.
Yeah, thank you. In terms of the continued research on how to best deliver some of the aspects, particularly the interpretive signage, that's not something that happens overnight. So there's going to need some community consultation and some work done on that. So in my opinion, slower is better, particularly on that aspect, because there's supposed to be going back, supposed to be some interpretive possibilities, the length of the trail. So whatever happens under this program at the south end would need to be considered and replicated where possible and when possible throughout the entire trail. So yeah, interpretive signage takes time.
Yes, through the warden to the councillor, yes, certainly. We have started the research with our friends in tourism. There's been some recent changes there, so we're delayed a bit, but the intent is to deliver the signing for the whole trail. It's just that this grading operation, because of dollars, is more confined to the south area that hasn't been touched yet.
So it might also be beneficial for us to, at some point in the not too distant future, have the ad hoc committee, see if we can't get the committee together. Councillor Roberts and then Councillor Rael.
Thank you, Warden. And actually, that was one of my questions, as we don't have a meeting date yet set for that. So I would like to see that get going again fairly soon. Our schedules are all very, very busy. When we do doodle polls, we all know what they look like and how easy they are to do. So I rode on my bicycle the other day, the section from Donald to Lachlan. And even though I've got a, pretty aggressive tire, if you will, it's really hard. So I have to say I'm very much looking forward to the resurfacing, but I can't remember if we also included some areas to expand some parking. So a nice thing to do, particularly if you're walking, not cycling, and you want to do some sections more in the southern end, like around Francis Road, etc. Is there going to be sort of some more expanded parking? Was that part of the contract? And then I have a further question.
Okay, regarding the parking, I don't believe that was part of the grant application, but we can certainly review because we do have maintenance dollars and there are other opportunities to look for that if we need to expand those parking lots.
So not part of the grant, but still part of that we can coordinate that work just to create a little bit areas for, even if it's only 5 or 6 cars. I know Dysart is working on doing that at the Gould's Crossing, just in conjunction with the county and municipality. Does staff need a letter of support or a resolution through council to request the extension of the grant?
Not at this time. We're waiting for the paperwork to come through from the government. So I've advised our new treasurer of the desire to put that request in when they ask for the cash flows. And so if we do need one, we'll certainly come back and inform council. Thank you.
Councillor Rael.
Yeah, just kind of like a follow-up more or less to Councillor Moffat's question. Standardization of the signage and making sure it's accessible and interpretive. Are we looking only at the portion that's within Haliburton County, or are we coordinating that with other jurisdictions as well? Because if we're going to have standardization, then I would assume it would be standard, or are we just worried about Haliburton County at the moment?
Currently, we're concerned with a portion of the trail within Haliburton County, although the tourism research is looking at Kawartha Lakes and other neighboring municipalities to make sure that there's a good feel for the signs. The signs that are part of this grant application are more interpretive signs about looking at local history or points of interest, as opposed to, say, safety or speed limit or signs like that. So there is a differential there, but again, the staff have done a good job of currently researching some existing signs in neighboring communities.
Thank you.
Councillor DeVolen.
If I can get the mute off here. Yeah, Robert, don't be afraid to, following on Councillor Roberts' comments, to give our Director of Public Works in Minden some of those areas, those roads, there's quite a number of them in Minden Hills that intersect the rail trail, that where opportunities and the best places for those would be. I can think of 2 or 3 off the top of my head, but I won't presume to speak for him. But if you want to give him a shout and tell him what you're thinking, I'm sure he'll offer up some good suggestions. And if it needs to come before Minden Hills Council, that with his assistance, you do that, and we do it in a timely fashion so that it doesn't hold up your project.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Oh, and sorry, Warden,
Yes,
we had one other request, and thank you for all the questions. Because of the timing of everything that's going on, time is of the essence for this contract, and normally the contract would be awarded at council in normal fashion, but we're just asking if we could award prior to the council meeting, just due to once we have the clearance from the federal government, that we'd like to get going as soon as possible. So we're just asking for that to be awarded through committee of the whole. And I'm sure our CAO has some wording to help me out on that.
any concerns with that from council? Okay, I just have a suggestion for you, Robert, that if tourism is working on the heritage aspect of signage, that possibly they contact our museum in Haliburton and see if they have anything that they might add. Could I have a mover and a seconder then for the resolution on the floor? To approve the report, Councillor Shell, Councillor DeVolen.
Moved by Councillor Shell, seconded by Councillor DeVolen. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Committee of the Whole received the staff report for the resurfacing of the Haliburton County Rail Trail, contract 2021-5-E, and that Haliburton County Committee of the Whole recommend to Haliburton County Council that the contract for the resurfacing of the Haliburton County Rail Trail be awarded to Marquee Snow and Ice Limited for the bid amount of $168,028 plus applicable taxes.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Next up is EMS and a report on the ambulance service review. Good morning, Chief Waite.
Good morning, Warden Danielson, members of council. I brought this report forward as I'm sure everyone's aware. Every 3 years, we go through a fairly extensive ambulance service review to renew our certificate to operate an ambulance service in the county of Haliburton. And our 3 years is this year. We've received our 90 days notice. And one of the larger components of the service review is a review of patient care, a lot through looking through the documentation provided on the ambulance call reports. We keep a fairly good overview and look at these ambulance call reports through the year. Our duty officers do an initial audit. Any identified things they find, they send on to our Deputy Chief of Quality Assurance and Education. With COVID, we've had to sort of do less of that in order to refocus on all the other extra duties with COVID. So what we'd like to do is just to have a good a good external look at all of our ambulance call reviews or call reports, is to let Base Hospital put them through their filters and do some eyes-on reporting of the ambulance call reports, just to mitigate and catch any of those little things that we could have missed, in order to provide a much better understanding and a much better view for the ambulance service review. So, and auditing of ambulance call reports can be very subjective. So I think an external view would be actually quite beneficial to pick up some of the things that we may have missed on some of the call reports, but also by putting it through their filter system, it can detect a lot of things that we may miss with just the eyes on. So I spoke with the Base Hospital, and they said at the outside at possibly $8,000 per year. We'd like to look at all 3 years since our last service review. And that gives us a sort of a good overview of prior to the pandemic and documentation during the pandemic. So a total of maximum of about $24,000 to look at all those call reports for those 3 years.
And you have that funding in your budget?
We were looking to use the Safe Restart funding for that.
Are there any questions? Well, then could I have a mover and a seconder to approve this? Councillor Roberts, Councillor Burton.
By Councillor Roberts, seconded by Councillor Burton, be it resolved that Haliburton County Committee of the Whole receives the report on the ambulance service review and utilizing Safe Restart funding, and recommends that Haliburton County Council approve the use of Safe Restart funding to utilize an external source, being Base Hospital, to provide a comprehensive ambulance call report review of basic life support standards and documentation for the years 2019, 2020, and 2021.
All in favor? That's carried. And we look forward to hearing the results of the review.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is finance and our financial reports. Good morning, Andrea.
Good morning, Warden and Council. My first report that I have this morning is our payroll register for July. We had 2 pay periods in July totaling $462,812.51.
Are there any questions on the payroll register? Could I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor DeVolen, Councillor Moffat.
Moved by Councillor DeVolen, seconded by Councillor Moffat, be it resolved that the Haliburton County Committee of the Whole receives for information the staff report on the payroll register for July 2021, and further that it be recommended to Haliburton County Council that the payroll register for July 2021 with net direct deposits totaling $462,812.51 be hereby approved.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next up is a check register.
Our total payments for the month of July were $1,393,938.58.
Any questions on the check register? Could I have a mover and a seconder to approve them? Councillor Moffat and Councillor McKechnie.
Moved by Councillor Moffat, seconded by Councillor McKechnie, be it resolved that Haliburton County Committee of the Whole receives for information the staff report on the check register for July 2021, and further that it be recommended to Haliburton County Council that the check register for July 2021 with checks, EFTs, and PAPs totaling $1,393,938.58 be hereby approved.
All in favor? It's carried. And finally, the year-to-date actuals.
So as of July 31st, we are 55.66% spent in our operating expenses and 10.93% of the capital expenses. We are still waiting for a number of the capital projects to start rolling in, so that's why that number is still so low.
Any questions on the year-to-date actuals? Could I have a mover and a seconder then to accept the report? Councillor DeVolen and Councillor Roberts.
Moved by Councillor DeVolen, seconded by Councillor Roberts, be it resolved that Haliburton County Committee of the Whole receives for information the staff report on the year-to-date actuals as at July 31st, 2021, and further that it be recommended to Haliburton County Council that the year-to-date actuals as at July 31st, 2021 be hereby approved.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Andrea. Okay, next up is IT status report. Good morning, Mr. March.
Morning, Warden Danielson and members of the committee. So before you today is my standard monthly IT status report, giving an overview of the number of IT service requests we've handled and a project status report for all the IT initiatives we're working on, as well as some other statistics. Nothing really new or important to note from my end. I'm more than happy to answer any questions on any of the specifics in the report if the committee had any questions.
Are there any questions? Councillor Roberts.
Just a compliment and a thank you to the IT team for all their work with the Head Lake Welcome Center, and also getting our equipment up in the Dysart Council chambers. We had a meeting again yesterday with the the jumbo TV, and it's all working very smoothly. And I look forward to when we can have in-person council meetings, but still be able to live stream to the public. So anyway, thanks. You guys make it look effortless. It's over my head.
I'm happy that it worked well. Thank you.
I think it's over all of our heads except for Mike's.
I've got a good team behind me as well, so I'll take all the credit.
Could I have a mover and a seconder to accept the report? Councillor Moffat and Councillor Royale.
Moved by Councillor Moffat, seconded by Councillor Ryle. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Committee of the Whole receives for information the August 11th, 2021 IT Department Status Report.
All in favor? That's carried. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
So nothing under planning and environment or personnel. So next up under tourism is a proposed application for tourism relief funding.
Good morning. Council will recall that in either late 2020 or early 2021, we submitted an application for rural economic development funding. The grant was to cover the beginning stages of implementation of the destination management plan, which included hiring a content coordinator to beef up our social media and to really work on our website and do a bit of a revamp on the website. It was intended to be a 1 to 2 year contract position, and we were denied that funding. This opportunity has come along. It has a very similar criteria for grant. It's a federal program delivered through FedNor, I believe. I have had some conversations. I have to give credit where it's due. Heather Reed from HCDC has been incredibly helpful. She made some contact with the folks at FedNor and received very positive feedback on our proposal or the type of work that we were proposing to do. So really what we're suggesting is that we dust off that grant application and really resubmit to a different grant program. The one area that I think we would, I guess, maybe change a little bit. I think really it is a bit of a watershed moment for tourism in the county, and we have a website that is a few years old. So I think we would look to step back a little bit with the website, do a more comprehensive review than was originally proposed, and maybe some consultation with council and some others to see if it is still meeting our needs or should we take a bit of a different direction. So really very similar project to what was submitted under the RED program. We're asking for $145,000, $120,000 of that would be for wages, and $15,000 for a targeted Ontario campaign.
Thoughts or questions?
Sorry.
Councillor DeVolen, then Councillor Moffat.
Seems like a wonderful idea, and I agree with the website and technology and where people are at and how quickly it's changed in the last year or two. That if that has an expanded feel and scope to it, that would be very beneficial. So thanks.
Councillor Moffat.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we've talked before about what the past year and a half has brought, and I don't think I'd be remiss in saying we've all been hearing that, you know, there are concerns that the area is already becoming a bit overcrowded and commercialized. I support this, and I did speak briefly with Mike earlier on it. I'd like to see some of these things, if it's successful and somebody's hired, some of these things assessed for capacity to make sure we're targeting the right areas for the right reasons. And I'm hoping that in somewhere wrapped in the destination management plan, because I can't remember, is the recommendations from the community exchange we did a number of years ago, and there were some really good outcomes from that, and I think they might have gotten folded into the management plan. And I also wonder, in terms of trying to serve the people whose industry this affects, if we should, I'd like to see the role be a little bit flexible in terms of checking in with the Chamber of Commerce and BIAs and the tourism stakeholder group. They may have they're likely to have some really specific on the ground suggestions of what might be needed. And if I may put on my negative Nelly hat, or my be careful what you wish for hat, I'd like to plant the seed that some early feedback on the community safety and well-being plan indicates that the community has bigger sustainability issues to address than getting more visitors here. And I just think we need to be prepared to carefully analyze those needs when those reports start coming forward. So we've got some big planning and financial decisions to make going forward. So while tourism is an incredibly important aspect of our community, things are changing quickly and we have some really big needs coming up. So just planting the seed there.
Thanks. Excellent point. Councillor DeVolen?
Yeah, and just to dovetail about capacity, Minden Hills were making really good inroads with the ministry about having the Queen Elizabeth wildlands become operational. And I would say if we get feedback or information in the future about capacity for people coming here and where they can stay and do whatever, that we would circle around to that, and Minden Hills in conjunction with the county be prepared to use that kind of data and information to present it to them again, which will probably be after the next provincial election next spring, whatever, but just to not forget about that, because again, capacity as you drive around these roads in the county, it will soon become a challenge if it isn't already.
Councillor Moffat?
Yeah, and thank you to Councillor DeVolen for letting us know the progress on that, because that's a big deal. And not dissimilarly, although on a smaller scale, through the pandemic with the world's interest in seeking the great outdoors so they could at least do something, the Algonquin Highlands trail system had unprecedented use, to the extent that there were a handful of people who said, there's too many people here. So I think we need to keep our eye on that bigger long-term picture of I always, in my mind, I think of the old movies of the generals around the map, moving the ships around on the map. And I think that's what we need. I don't want to hire someone who's just going to do a whole bunch of social media stuff and fix the website and say, yay. We need to have a more comprehensive and consolidated view of where we're going here, what this community can handle. And to Brent's point, that that capacity assessment, in consideration of things like QE2 and other uses, are really important in order to decide a direction and where to put the emphasis. Thanks.
Councillor Roberts.
Thank you. I appreciate Councillor Moffat opening up this conversation, because this little niggly part in the back of my thought, which I was just afraid to say it out loud, is be careful what you wish for. I drove through town yesterday on a Tuesday after our DICERT committee, the whole meeting, and I couldn't find a parking spot to go to the farmer's market. I went back later by my bike. It's a zoo. It's almost like, where's that tipping point where capacity, where we reach capacity where it isn't fun anymore, where and we see what other towns have had to do, places like Aurelia on Lake Simcoe and Barrie, where they charge $50 for a non-residence parking, and it sort of becomes an us against them, where you don't want the visitors. Tobermory went through issues with day trippers. So I think we have to look at this as a whole, larger picture. So do we have enough parking? Do we have enough? Even with our garbage collection, we are doing double duty. We've doubled it up in the last 2 summers to have garbage collection in our parks twice a day in Head Lake Park, because people are getting takeout for the restaurants, and they're taking picnics, and they're doing great big garbage bags. So it all trickles down to the services that we provide as well. So really good points, Councillor Moffat and also Councillor DeVolen. I'm excited, but I'm concerned.
Councillor Moffat.
So at the risk of muddying the waters further, that's a really good point too. Of course, I want to say to Andrea, oh my God, you went to town on a Tuesday? Except that's a thing now. So we need to remember, these aren't little funny anecdotes for our little community. So for years and years and years, people said, we deserve to have more than a seasonal economy. We deserve year-round jobs. We need more people here in the shoulder seasons. So we're back to the be careful what you wish for. And I know I sound like a broken record, but I quite frankly don't care, that we are not infrastructurally prepared for the growth this community is facing. So we need, again, to keep our eye on that prize of, I never thought of things like garbage pickup in town, because Algonquin Highlands doesn't have a town. So we have half of one. And so can we make sure that we don't just, as I already said, don't hire someone who's just going to do social media, but how can we remind ourselves, or we should remind ourselves, that the destination management plan is not a tourism plan. It's a community development plan. And it's meant to integrate life and tourism. So maybe that's the bigger prize that needs to have a content creator's eye on it. So that capacity, that assessment, that evaluation, integration with the existing plan in light of what we've seen in COVID from each of the municipalities to generate a priority list of how the destination management plan might be augmented or modified to suit where we are now.
There's no doubt that this discussion is leading us into the thought that we need to look at this from all aspects of our operations and municipal operations. And I really am looking forward to our hiring our economic development officer and our tourism position to help with a lot of this work, because obviously it's going to go beyond the scope of this proposal. Councillor Duvallin?
No, you just summarized what I was going to say, Warden. So that's when the person's sitting behind the desk, that'll be a large component, because economic development is just not about getting more. It's about designing a path in all of the elements that dovetail with it. In tourism, and most of these modern approaches to it is a significant part of it, but all of these dimensions are considered in the path that we choose to go forward with.
Councillor Moffat?
So what can you tell us what the timing is on both of those positions? Because I'm wondering if it's possible this is cart before the horse. I know we have to sometimes stitch timelines and deadlines together. Should we get an ec dev and tourism person in place? Because maybe their brainstorming would determine that we don't need a content creator, we need a data analyst. I mean, I don't know, but what happens if we hire a content creator and then get the other two people who say, yeah, we don't need that person, we need something else? Is there any consideration for that? What's the timing on those other two positions?
Let Mr. Rutter respond to that.
So the job descriptions have been drafted. Once those are approved, and council has the conversation later today about the type of individual they are looking for in those positions. Our hope is that the economic development and tourism director would be in the market by the end of the week, early next week at the very latest. And then I would suggest we wait a couple weeks, then advertise the tourism position, because we want to have the new director in place to hire that tourism manager position, because there will be a reporting relationship there. I'd like those resumes waiting for the new director when they start. So our hope is to stagger it a little bit, but have them very tightly together. Our goal with the economic development position is to have someone in place in the third quarter, probably near the end of the third quarter, but have someone here by then. In terms of your question about should we wait, this is an open intake, so there's no application deadline. The risk associated with that is that the money is spoken for, and so I really would look to committee for direction on that. We can wait. The risk is that there may not be no money left when we finally are ready to submit.
What's the timing on the time within which the money needs to be spent under this program?
March 31st, 2023. So again, the timeline is that 12 to 18 months. We would, by the time we hire someone, we're really looking at about an 18-month until the deadline.
So we've got some time to get those positions in place and still work this particular program. Any other questions or thoughts about this application? Okay, could I have a mover and a seconder then to approve it? Councillor DeVolen, Councillor Shell.
Moved by Councillor Rowland, seconded by Councillor Shell. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Committee of the Whole received the August 11th, 2021 proposed application to the Tourism Relief Fund staff report, and that it be recommended to Haliburton County Council that staff be directed to submit an application.
All in favor? That's carried. But that concludes the open portion of our business. If I could have a mover and a seconder for us to move into closed session. Councillors Moffat and Burton.
Moved by Councillor Moffat, seconded by Councillor Burton. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Committee of the Whole enter into closed session as per section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended for the following reasons: personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees.
All in favor? That's carried. Do we need a break, or should we just take the length of time it takes to move from open to closed? Just carry on. Okay.
And we're back live.
Okay, welcome back to the open session. The next item is intermunicipal collaboration. I see there's no report. Is there anything that you wanted to pass on to council? Mr. Vetter?
Only to say that the working groups, a number of them have met, or some of them have met, and a number of them are trying to arrange meetings. So we will be ready with information at our next Service Delivery Review Steering Committee meeting, which is comprised of County Council. We're hoping that that will take place in September. Our original plan was to meet in August, but the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan, we needed to get a meeting of the steering committee for that together. So that bumped our Service Delivery Review meeting. So we're hopeful to meet in September, and I know that at least 2 or 3 of the groups will have met by then, so there will be updates from those. And yeah, lots is going on. I really want to thank the local CAOs. Each of them have sort of taken ownership of some of the working groups and our leadership of them, and that's worked really well. So they've been phenomenal.
Thank you, sir. So there's nothing to report out of close or no action there. So that leaves us with a motion to adjourn. Gonna have a mover and a seconder. Councillor Moffat and Councillor McKechnie.
Sorry, I missed who the seconder was.
It wasn't me.
Councillor McKechnie.
Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Moffat, seconded by Councillor McKechnie. Be it resolved that the August 11th, 2021 meeting of Haliburton County Committee of the Whole now adjourned.
All in favor? Thanks, everyone, and we will see you soon.
Bye.